This video I'm going to talk about a very relevant topic for everybody, dealing with stress, how to deal with stress. Now, everybody is going to experience stress. Now, not all stress is bad, so that's one thing that you have to learn to understand, is that not all stress is bad. Too much stress is not good. Too little stress may not be good either. So, in a way, sometimes stress may motivate us to excel to a higher level. There's a lot of scientific studies that show, for example, athletes who are not stressed enough underperform. And then obviously if they're too stressed, they underperform as well. There has to be a balance. So stress in our lives is in a way kind of necessary for us to grow to our potential. Now, when you have too much stress, what do you do? How do you cope with it? Now, this is a very relevant topic for everybody because everybody gets stressed, and this is a fast-paced life that we live in modern society. Everything's moving so quickly that we don't have time for ourselves. We don't have time to we don't make time for ourselves. We don't make time to harmonize, to get back in tune with our inner spirits. A lot of us are just so overwhelmed with our ambitions, our desires, and overconsumed and controlled by our egos. So there are many ways to counteract this and to basically learn to be back in peace within ourselves. And a lot of this is what I talk about in meditation, when I speak about meditation. And what it basically is learning to understand the mind. The mind is basically what causes the stress. The mind can also be translated to be the ego. The ego is this inner self, this self that we feel, that we are. Really, in reality, it doesn't really exist. It's imaginary. But the ego is necessary for us to be human, for us to be able to communicate with language and things like that. Now, when you feel in deep moments of stress, it's the ego, it's the mind that's causing that stress. So the mind is like the thoughts that you have in here, the thoughts that you have, the negative thoughts or even positive thoughts, whatever thoughts that are going up in here, it's what's causing that stress. So the way that you get rid of the stress is to stop those thoughts. And when you stop those thoughts, and when you have no thoughts, that's what is meditation. And that's when you are in the moment. When you're in the moment, there's no way that you can be stressed. It's just, you're in the moment, there's no thoughts, there's no thinking of the future, there's no thinking of the past, and you're just here right now. When you're here right now, then the stress will go away. But the problem is that it's hard for people to be here right now and to basically stop those thoughts, because the thoughts is something that's been a part of us for so many years that it's been a habit that we've formulated. So sometimes the Buddha, what he would do is just sit there, sit and meditate, do nothing, and that's basically his way of doing it, one of his ways. Other ways of doing it, I mean, there's so many different ways. Artists. So for example, like Tupac, he's one of my favorite rappers. Now, he would say something like, he was so stressed about being wrongfully put in jail and all this other stuff. So, to let out his stress, he'll let it out through his music. And he would even say himself, it's a lot less expensive to be in the studio booth than to be sitting in front of a psychologist. Sitting in front of a psychologist is making you pay by the hour to let it out. And he might be charging you $150 an hour just for you to let it out. Now he just goes into the studio booth, lets it out through his music artistically, and that's releasing that energy that's basically causing the stress. So artists, that's what they do. If you're a painter, you feel this energy inside that you want to let out. You let it out through your paintings, and you can create much beauty. Even in sadness, there could be much beauty within that art. So you see the music that we listen to, there might be some sad songs. Maybe the artist at that time is feeling some inner pain that he needs to just let out. And when he lets it out through that art, it becomes beautiful. Now, when you're practicing art, it's like a transforming of the energy that you have inside to let it out. And that's basically your meditation. So rather than just sitting there like Buddha and just doing nothing and just meditating, an artist will meditate through his art. So if you're a singer, you will sing. If you're a dancer, you will dance. If you're a martial artist, then you may practice your combat techniques artistically. Alright? Bruce Lee making those movies in a way is letting out his stress. He might have been feeling a lot of discrimination in Hollywood, a lot of racism in Hollywood. So he would let out that stress in the movie, like create a movie, be like, boom, you know, this is my expression of this energy, you know, that I have. And it's a beautiful expression. It's an artistic expression. Now, art, there's peace in it. Alright, remember that. So I'm not saying to let out your stress by hurting other people. Now, that's kind of what cage fighting, competition fighting, that's what they do. You know, they kind of hurt other people to let out that stress. That's not a good thing. Now, you want to let it out in artistic ways. Breakdancing, rapping, rhyming, writing poetry, drawing. Ways to just let out that energy. Okay? It's just basically stress is kind of like signifying an excess of energy that you need to let out. Okay? And you let it out through artistic ways. That's what an artist would do. Now, if you are in a relationship, you may let that stress, you know, let that stress out within an intimate moment with your partner. Now, that's another way. We all know about that way. But if you are not in a relationship, then artistically you could do it. And there's many different ways. Just find out what you enjoy. If you like playing the piano, like playing the violin, then you put that energy into that, and you're into the moment at that time, and then basically the stress goes away because you're in that moment. You're expressing that energy through that art. Now, you might even be in a relationship, and rather than helping you release that energy, the relationship might be causing the stress. So when the relationship is causing the stress, then you have to find the time alone as an artist to learn to express that stress. So say you are a musician and you play the guitar, and then you're in a relationship, and the relationship is causing you all the stress because you guys are going through arguments or whatever. As a musician, you would go in private, alone, and just let out that energy through playing the guitar. You might have made one of the most beautiful songs ever because of that energy that you have within. So don't think of stress necessarily always as a bad thing. Look at it as a way of just energy that you want to release into your art, okay? And it could be one of the most beautiful expressions imaginable. You know, so do not think of it as a totally bad thing. In a way, it is something that can be transformed into something beautiful as long as you are not hurting the people around you physically or whatever. Learn to express it through art, through creativity, and that's the way. That is the highest level of releasing that stress is through the meditation, through no mind, no thought, and just being in the moment in everything that you do.